Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. How are you today? I hope you guys are always in a good condition and always feeling well. So today we would like to present our summary about creative writing that we have joined yesterday. But before that, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Azril Akbar Faizal, and my teammates Naufal Zaki Chundoko, or you can just call him Chun. So in this presentation, there will be 8 main points. Next. Okay, the first point, we're going to talk about creative writing. The second point is about fiction. The third point is about nonfiction. The fourth point is about why do people write. The fifth point is about right to survive. The sixth point is purpose of right to survive. The seventh, handle responsibility. And the last is conclusion. Now, let's move on to the first point. Next slide, please. Okay, the first point is creative writing. What is creative writing? Creative writing is anything that you present, that you write, which present as a narrative story. On the other word, creative writing is anything where the purpose is to express thoughts, feelings, and emotion rather than to convey information. In a creative writing, the writer often express in an imaginative, unique, or poetic way. Next. Okay, next we are going to talk about fiction in creative writing, of course. Fiction itself is a creative word portraying people, events, or places in a way that are imaginary or not strictly based on history or fact. Next. Okay, in fiction itself, there are two types. The first one is short fiction. The second one is long fiction. Short fiction is a prose narrative that is shorter than a novel, and usually it deals with only a few characters. For example, for short fiction is short stories, fairy tales, or bedtime story. And the second one, there is long fiction. Long fiction is Long fiction is a work of prose that tell a story about specific human experiences over a considerable length. For example, like novel. Novel itself is a story with considerable long fiction because it's length, you know. Okay, next, the third point, we move on to the third point. There is nonfiction. Nonfiction is a prose writing based on a fact, real event, and real people. So it's like an opposite of fiction. Or the type of nonfiction or the example of nonfiction is our biography, autobiography, history, and diary. Next, move on to the fourth point is why do people write, or the reason people write. The first one is because you have a story inside you, or they have a story inside them, and you think or feel this story is worth telling and people deserve to know. This is especially true of feature stories in a news publication. And the second one is curiosity can cause misunderstanding. There are many things that can be happen if some of group people doesn't have information about certain things, and it may cause consolidation of various prejudice in many segments of society already ingrained, which bring a lot of sufferings and gains on the other part of society. And the rest, I will give it to Naufal Zagi Sundoko. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Azriel. Thank you very much for the time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me continue this presentation. So the next part is, what is right to survive? Survive usually means overcoming a crisis, minor or major crisis. The other meaning to understand survive is to continue to live or exist especially after coming close to dying or being destroyed or after being in a difficult or threatening situation. For that reason, often a person who lives in absolute comfort, not in need or anything which is not available, may find it hard to produce anything in writing. It's because in a need to write something, we have to stand outside in our comfort zone. We need to explore a lot of things first before finally we can put everything that has been on our mind into sentences. The element of survival, the need of survival, is like power, a kind of energy that drives you. That's the only force that can make you to move forward, gaining something new in your life. The next part is several kinds of survival which drive you to write. A reporter, a journalist, or a writer of historical and creative ideas that can be enjoyed. It always depends in how you tell a story about what happened in your writing. It has to be easy to understand, to communicative and attract interest from the readers. You may decide to become an author and you need to achieve the protection writing. This kind of situation will force you to find ideas to fill your work. Writing to survive does not only concern the physical needs on the writer's part, it might also concern the mental need. Both of those aspects must be fulfilled in the term of making a good writing. As a writer, you have to be creative on how do we affect our reader emotion. Our writing can trigger happy, sad, or even angry in the heart of our audience. The next part is handle responsibility and conscientiously. This situation can sharpen the writers to make sure what they write is true to their knowledge. Responsible writers cannot just write everything based on their perspective without knowing the data first. It is a crucial thing because at the end of the day, we have to be responsible of what we have written. In the case of future writers, they should diligently investigate the story from angles as sufficiently as possible, not just take everything from their perspective. Finally, we arrive at the last part, which is the conclusion. The conclusion of this presentation. Creative writing is anything that you write which presents as a narrative story. And there are two types of creative writing. There are fiction and non-fiction writing. Fiction itself is not based on fact, whereas non-fiction is based on fact. People have a certain reason to write. First, because they have a story to tell, and they were a curiosity that caused a misunderstanding. Writing to survive needs to apply to those who have a job that correlates to writing. They need to get out of their comfort zone to find new ideas, especially for those who have a job as a reporter, journalist, or author. Also, as a good writers, we have to be responsible for what we have written. I think that's all for me, ladies and gentlemen. The time I will give back to Azriel.
Okay, thank you, Naufal Zaki Chundoko, for the presentation. I think that's all from our presentation. I hope you guys can learn something new from us. And we also want to say sorry if we made so many mistakes. Thank you so much for listening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.